Have you ever been in the middle of a movie or a show that you're pretty invested in just for a major development to happen that's so shocking and bizarre that it makes you question what you've been watching in the first place? As if someone reached through the screen and dunked your head into an ice-cold tub of water. When it came to this piece of media, you understood its themes, the behavior of its key characters, and overall vibe of the show, just for everything to get flipped on its head and feel vastly different in the blink of an eye. Sometimes you feel betrayed by such a sudden change, but other times you're more excited than ever, as the show you've been enjoying thus far suddenly takes on an entirely new meaning in a positive way due to a jarring scene or event. This feeling is known as tonal whiplash. It's basically when there's a sudden shift of tone and style within a story or scene that completely changes the vibe of what's going on and makes the viewer feel something similar to the physical sensation of whiplash. It's like if a nefarious villain that's been built up forever suddenly cracks a yo mama joke after destroying half of the world and then starts emoting in front of the heroes before revealing that they've been a good person all along, and the heroes immediately accept them and sweep their crimes under the rug after spending the entire story punishing criminals. Although the concept of tonal whiplash might sound dangerous and not worth the risk from a writer's perspective, it's present in all sorts of popular media, with some media being solely known for their usage of tonal whiplash in both good and bad ways. Tonal whiplash is an extremely powerful tool, as it's both high risk and extremely high reward when executed properly. Good usage of tonal whiplash keeps you on the edge of your seat, making you second guess every single word that's uttered, searching for hidden meaning, because you never know what's going to happen next, but deep down you know whatever shocking event that does occur, you'll still be able to understand the reasoning behind it and go with the flow as the author intended. This makes the story and the characters feel a lot more layered, and overall leads to a much more enjoyable experience. If tonal whiplash is used poorly, it can make you look at a show or a specific character with a disdainful outlook, and overall makes the show quality much lower because you don't really care about what's happening and can't really take anything seriously. It has the power to ruin entire characters and arcs in an instant. The usage of tonal whiplash varies in magnitude throughout different kinds of media, and the degree and frequency to which tonal whiplash is utilized often becomes a key characteristic of certain authors. There's recurring tonal whiplash, where the media often switches between dramatically different tones, whether the show suddenly goes from melancholy and emotional to thrilling and goofy on a dime, or vice versa. When this kind of tonal whiplash is used, the viewer must always be prepared for the unexpected. Some stories opt to not constantly smack the viewer in the face with a sock filled with dry ice, and instead channel the shock that comes from tonal whiplash into one major tide-shifting event. This major event ends up completely recontextualizing the story, and the story remains on this new tone that was set by this tonal whiplash. If done well, it can dramatically shift how you view a show in an extremely positive manner, and make you look back on certain events in a lens that's completely different from someone who hadn't witnessed the narrative shifting moment yet. As anime dabbles in the realm of fictional stories, tonal whiplash is obviously present in it, quite frequently at that. Compared to live action media, tonal whiplash in anime is a lot harder to handle due to how over-exaggerated anime tends to be, and how it often relies on a specific kind of humor. Anime humor often revolves around vulgar subjects like feces and fan service, and when a show employs extremely unserious cliche gags in the middle of serious moments, it can seriously take away from it. Visually, this kind of tonal whiplash leads to the aesthetic of a scene being changed entirely, and it can suck the viewer out of their immersion if done incorrectly. On the flip side, if a character that's been crying about pooflinging for an entire show suddenly gets a serious moment out of nowhere, it can be difficult to feel anything from said moment. There's plenty of anime that are known solely for their usage of tonal whiplash. For example, Madoka Magica, which was a seemingly innocent magic girl anime, lulled viewers into a false sense of whimsy security with its first couple of episodes, just to undergo insane tonal whiplash and flip the entire story on its head. And the shift of tone was executed so perfectly that it's one of the major reasons Madoka Magica is still being heavily discussed over 10 years later. Fire Force, despite being a very good battle shonen with crazy good world building that's packed to the brim with hype, is known for its horrific tonal whiplash when it comes to a certain character that keeps inventing new ways to get unclothed during the most tense situations. Tonal whiplash is a two-way street. My favorite example of tonal whiplash in anime, and perhaps my favorite anime in general, is Gintama. Gintama had constant tonal whiplash, but it was done in such an incredible way because of hints of more serious events to come that were given, and the author Hideaki Sorachi did an excellent job making us care for every character, whether they be in goofy or serious situations. Gintama found ways to make me laugh and cry over the most ridiculous concepts and characters. I was hyped to see a homeless bum finally majorly contribute when he was previously a cardboard transformer. I had goosebumps when I saw the unserious gorilla who led the Shinsengumi give an inspiring speech during war. The main character, Gintoki himself, is the perfect example of tonal shift being executed perfectly, as he's a self-described bum whose dark past is slowly drip-fed to the viewers throughout the entire anime. The goofy moments present early in Gintama end up contributing to extremely emotional moments that hit me like a truck, but before I knew it, I was back to laughing with the cast after another ridiculous event. Recently, I was reminded of how much I enjoy a well-executed tonal shift while watching a supernatural battle shonen anime called Dandadan. Dandadan is a rather unserious show from the beginning, featuring a pair of high schoolers who have differing beliefs when it comes to aliens and yokai, following their wacky battles against supernatural forces as they try to protect the world they love, picking up comrades with unique backgrounds along the way to make a hilarious ensemble of characters. The main objective of Dandadan is retrieving one of the main character's missing testicles because an evil granny inside of a tunnel asked to gobble his wiener. Dandadan is filled to the brim with goofy fights between hilariously designed characters, aliens, and yokai. The characters are seen fighting shrimp and sumo wrestlers, and there's constant goofy faces, delinquent walks, lighthearted music, make your heart bounce romance, and mostly good vibes in general. However, in between all of these goofy moments, Dandadan sprinkles in little serious details about the story while remaining wholly unserious. Due to this, when serious things do happen, it really grips the watcher and makes them care a lot. Dandadan's able to perfectly execute tonal whiplash despite this extremely unserious setting because of the way he utilizes backstories and weaves them into certain confrontations. The tonal whiplash usually occurs when we see the backstory of certain yokai or aliens. However, during these backstories, Dandadan shifts direction and doesn't really focus on the bizarre aspect of them, and instead portrays a backstory that depicts extremely human struggles that we can all relate to. Struggles that we don't see throughout the show itself, but we see during these backstories that make you realize that the yokai that are currently being fought against were once human too. And due to establishing this human connection between what the viewer would think is certainly a monster, it allows the viewer to actually care for said monster as a human. An example from Dandadan that shows its masterful usage of tonal whiplash is when the main gang is face to face with a yokai named Acrobatic Silky. On first appearance, Acrobatic Silky seems like a scary, delusional yokai that thinks one of the characters named Ira is her blood daughter. She's super obsessive about Ira in a weird way, and she's straight up eating other people. She's crying, begging for Ira to call her mommy. Acrobatic Silky forcing everyone to call her mommy seems like a perverted gag in the beginning, as visually she's nothing but unsettling. As the fight unfolds, Acrobatic Silky continues talking like an insane mother, going on to refer to Okaran as a wiener boy and constantly cursing Momo. However, she takes action once her perceived daughter, Ira, is no longer breathing, and she offers to give up all of her aura to bring Ira back to life. Initially, this seemed extremely creepy as Acrobatic Silky was this uncontrollable monster that the main cast was trying to take down. However, now she's suddenly willing to lay down her entire existence just to bring Ira back to life. This is when we begin to see her backstory, and as it unfolds, the feeling of resentment that I held towards Acrobatic Silky quickly transformed to one of pity and heartbreak as I saw all of the struggles she went through when she was a human. When Acrobatic Silky's backstory first begins, the mood immediately shifts from having a bunch of colors everywhere accompanied by extremely bouncy battle music as the good guys try to take down this supposed demon, and goes to a downcast rainy day depicting a mother waking up after spending the night selling her body. There's a lack of music when she's introduced, which makes the situation feel extremely real as the only sounds present are the falling raindrops. When this mother re-enters her apartment, light becomes flooding in, not only due to the apartment's light but because of the daughter that's inside waiting for her, the literal light of the mother's life. The mother is shown working multiple jobs to make ends meet for her daughter. She's going through all of this mental anguish because her daughter is the love of her life and keeps her going. The darkness of being a and struggling to pay off debts is dwarfed by the existence of her daughter, and it keeps Silky going. As we see a montage of mother and daughter enjoying their life together despite being poor, piano music begins pouring in, and it gives you this really cold feeling in your chest because you know something horribly wrong is going to happen to either one of them. The passage of time during this backstory is shown really well too, and as a viewer I was extremely invested in their story despite no words being spoken. The mother goes on to have her dear daughter get stolen away from her from debt collectors, and there's a POV shot with heavy breathing, and you can feel how desperate and crushed Silky is, but she can't do anything in this cold, cruel world that leaves people like her behind with no happiness to be had. Music returns as Silky dances for the last time before jumping off of a building, and I was left with an intense feeling of pain over a family that I was introduced to 5 minutes ago. During a fight that was extremely goofy in the yard of a high school, I was hit with a freight train of emotions when I saw little Ira tugging at the lady's dress, making her remember her own stolen daughter. It connects Ira, someone I didn't like up to this point of the story, to this tragic yokai who we used to hate previously. It features the strong bond that we can all relate to between mother and child, and it's in the most tragic way possible. Even though the episode right after immediately returns to the goofy shenanigans that I was used to seeing on Dandadan, in the back of my mind I was still constantly thinking of Acrobatic Silky's tragic backstory, especially when Ira was on screen, and it made me cherish the goofy moments all the more. Under every yokai in the story, despite how ridiculous they might look, is a deeply damaged human that went through something that we could all relate to, and even though they don't look human at the moment, their experiences and their tragedy propel the characters forward into growing and protecting this world, and to me, this is the ultimate way to execute tonal whiplash.